Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Rasmussen from Pathfinder Writing and Career Services, and I'm hoping that everybody got the link about LinkedIn, no pun intended. Anyway, we've had a little bit of broadcast issues. Arnie's, unfortunately, his Google Plus Hangout went to his phone, which wasn't working, so we're trying to reboot here. So hopefully he will be able to join us, and in the interim, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick intro for Arnie. And so just so you know a little bit about him, I'm really excited to have him on board with our second installment of this Career Hangout series. And Arnie has been very active in broadcasting and also in writing articles. So he's actually the on Careers blogger for U.S. News and World Report, and he was actually one of the first within the first 80,000 people to join LinkedIn. And today he has about 2,400 different people that are first-degree connections. So now he has about 23.5 million people in his network. That's all of his closest friends, right? So he is a formal recruiter, which is really great, and he has been working in a lot of different roles on kind of the recruiter side of things, especially with some Fortune 100 companies. But since 2008, he has been focusing most extensively on helping job seekers with the expertise and mastering the nuts and bolts of job hunting, defining the personal brand, and shortening time until people are hired. So anyway, so I hope Arnie will be able to join us with video here, and it looks like we have one viewer here. So I thought I wanted to introduce Arnie, and one thing that we were going to try to do is to walk through some of the do's and don'ts and perfecting profile, and 4 different ways you can find job opportunities on LinkedIn, and how to use LinkedIn to ace your interview. And then we have some Q&A. I think Arnie collected some great questions from some folks ahead of time. So what I thought I might do is, since he's not available yet, what I'd like to do is to just maybe talk a little bit about LinkedIn profiles and perfecting them, since Arnie will kind of cover the do's and don'ts. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share, and hopefully that will get me into the section that I would like to show everyone here. And so basically, I want to be able to go through all the different pieces of a LinkedIn profile so you know what to be looking for. And one of the things I always coach people on when you are putting together your LinkedIn profile is, you know, especially if you're starting a job search, is you can mute your broadcast activity. So let's just put it this way: if you're connected to anybody who might be remotely connected to your employer, or even your employer themselves, you probably don't want to have a whole lot of activity popping up on your profile saying, Dawn changed this, Dawn changed that. And so if you see a lot of flurry of activity, that can definitely mean that you're doing some updates and kind of maybe indicate that you're sprucing things up before a job search. So it's probably best to not broadcast it. There is a place in your settings to turn that off. So I would say turn it off, make your profile visible to no one except for you, make all of your changes, and then turn it back on so that there is just one notification that goes out to your network. Otherwise, you can get in some trouble there. So anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the profile itself. So I'm going to put you over into my screen share, and so hopefully if you can see that in just a second. Let's go to screen share and go here. And I don't know if you can see my screen there. Let's see if that's showing. There we go. So I just popped my profile up, and I know that Arnie was going to go through his a little bit too, but I'm just going to walk through the main components of your entire LinkedIn profile, because, you know, I always say to my clients that you definitely want to have a complete profile, because, you know, if you only have the cursory information, it's not really telling a story about you. So what we want to try to do is to walk through the entire profile, and I know this is mine as an example, and Arnie was going to go through his as well. So what you want to do is you want to have, for example, and I'll just highlight things, so you want to have a tagline in your little short section here. And one thing I want to make a note is that you definitely want to use as many characters as they have. And if you're not sure what the character limit is for each field for LinkedIn, I would advise going out and Googling it. And there are several different sites that give you the tally for each section, so you know what your character limit is. And so you might even start developing your content in Word, Microsoft Word, and use the word count feature and the character count. Actually, it's the character count that matters. And then that will help you make sure that you hit those parameters as you develop your content, because there's nothing worse than posting it up and then LinkedIn tells you that you're over the limit and then you have to start trimming. So it's helpful to know that kind of thing. So what you want to do, first of all, is to include a short tagline. This just should be your personal branding statement, and everybody should have that. That could be something you can include in your profile, in your LinkedIn profile, but also in your resume. It helps distinguish you. And obviously my company name is Pathfinder Writing and Career Services. So anyway, so I kind of tie that into my tagline as well. Now, one thing we want to do too is to make sure that you have a really strong profile photo. Smiling is really important, and seeing the face and the eyes. And you know, everybody, we're in a social world now, and we do take a lot of visual cues from people to decide if we like them or not. So what you wear, how you smile, if you're making eye contact with the camera, that kind of thing, all creates a presence for you in your LinkedIn profile. So this is really important. And so what you want to try to do is to make sure you get a professional shot, or if you can try to find someone who can take a reasonable photo. I had one CEO at one point, he was, I had to have a conversation with him about this, but he had one of those pictures that looked like it was a dating profile, and he had the picture of him in a water ski outfit, and his picture was cropped, and you can see the shadow or the hair of someone else there. So it was just so inappropriate. So anyway, so you always want a professional photo there. So as we go through our profile, I want to make sure that if you have any questions, I know I'm screen sharing right now, but I'll come back to those. And I apologize, it seems like Arnie can't seem to get into this LinkedIn profile Hangout, so I apologize for that, because I was really looking forward to interacting with him. Anyway, so there is a publishing function on LinkedIn, and it used to be that you had to apply to be a part of it. My understanding is now becoming more and more open to more and more people. So this is a nice way to establish some subject matter expertise, so you can get into the publishing part of it. You may need to apply. Again, I'm not sure where that's coming from, if they're still doing that or if anybody can do that, but you basically start writing articles and content that basically is your area of expertise. That's a nice way to help get yourself found, get some views, and that kind of thing. So you might want to consider doing that. It can earn you some followers as well. Now, there's a difference between followers and connections. Followers are people that are waiting, they basically are subscribing to any content that you publish, whereas your connections get everything. That's my understanding from that. So now the next thing you want to do is your summary is really important. I believe you have 2,000 characters that you can fill in here. And so what you want to do is to create a compelling area in here, and a lot of people will kind of just take their resume overview, which is written in telegraph style, otherwise known as in first person, and you don't want to do that, because we are in a social era, as I said, and you really need to write to your audience. So write in your first person here. This is a great way to tell a story. So it's what would you want someone to know about you if you are talking to them directly? So it's just the same kind of thing. So take the time to go through this section and really try to tie in your whole career. This is a nice way to tie in your whole career and what you might be able to do for a potential employer. Obviously, you don't want to sound like you're job searching too much, but it might be the value that you bring to the table. And this section here is a nice thing to include, and you know, you can make it so that if you're in sales or something like that, it could be a call to action. So LinkedIn isn't necessarily looking for jobs, but it can be, obviously, but it could also be a way to get people to contact you. So give them your contact information. The other thing you want to do is under specialties here, this is another way to kind of fly a little bit under the radar, but these are also keyword optimization areas. So whatever areas that you want to be known for, you can include that in your summary if you choose, but it's a nice way to kind of get a little bit more keyword density into your profile. The next thing you want to do is to include, if you can, any videos or portfolio items in here. So this is this whole nice section. You can add a lot of different things about if you have a video interview or if you have any articles, things like that. So this is a nice way to add to your whole entire publishing area. So the next piece of your profile is to include your skills and endorsements. So this is a really important thing you need to do. So what you want to do, skills and endorsements, it's kind of a funny thing. A lot of us in the careers industry have some mixed feelings about this section, simply because anybody can endorse you for anything. So if I wanted to put underwater basket weaving on here, I could, and maybe people would endorse me for that. Is that really relevant to what I do? Probably not. So, well, I would hope not anyway. So one thing we want to try to do is to think about what are the core key words that we want to be associated with us. Now, this is very important for you because essentially that will be some ways that people can find you online, but also it's sort of like the search engine optimization. If you have a website, you want to make sure you come up top in the results. So you can order these, and I want to be able to show you. Let's just go up to the top. I'm going to pretend to edit my profile, and this can show you how that you can order these. Anything in your profile can be moved around, so you can move it at different sections up above or below. So any block of information can be moved, so you can reorder things depending on what you want to do. So here, when we go into editing the skills and endorsements, you can move these around. So if you have 16 job search, maybe that skyrocketed to 2016, and I could move this up to here. And so basically, you can't, I just reordered this because this is based on the number of endorsements I get and all those things. And you can actually you click out any ones that are not relevant to what you do. So you want to kind of keep this area pretty reined in and focused. And certainly if a number of people start endorsing you for a particular skill set that you didn't think you had, but you realize that you do, then maybe you should start thinking about that, because again, it might be something that other people are suggesting that they see you as an expert in. So maybe you didn't even think about it. So, but anyway, so you can reorder these. So you can see how I had 99 plus, 99 plus, and so you can order these, so you kind of have a nice chunky piece. So if we go to done editing, you can kind of see how these are all chunked together, and it shows all the different tiers. So that way, if it'll also show you what people think of you the most about, if that makes sense, while it's also getting your keywords in here. So, while we may say, okay, that, we've got a lot of endorsements and it's just like a Facebook like in a way, it can also be a way to optimize your results if someone's searching for, resume writers on LinkedIn or something like that. So just be aware of that could be a nice way to try to pull all this stuff together. So the next section is, maybe if you don't have a publication, obviously I have a book, but if you've written any articles, if you've been published in an industry trade magazine, you kind of want to put your awards and certifications towards the top, or any kind of notable achievements. And so this is kind of what I've done here. These are my certifications and publications. So you kind of want to make sure those are front and center before you start moving into your work experience. So one thing, as we go through the work experience itself, I really want to make sure that you are aware of this. So you need to be able to take in your background, but then you also need to tell a little bit of a story about each employer where you've worked. So it's important to really try to tell the story, because it connects to the reader, and if they see that you are excited about or it got something out of it, or it had some kind of meaningful experience, then it really kind of helps position you in the mind. So what you want to do is to try to couch what you got out of it, and the questions I ask is, what did you enjoy the most about the job? What are your biggest takeaways? What part of the job did you really enjoy the most? Those types of things to help tell the story, or maybe an important lesson you learned, or maybe this is where I really learned how to become a blah, blah, blah. So this is a nice way to kind of spin your background, and then you want to get into your top contributions. And usually what I try to do is to coach people on your resume part, especially, is to think about quantifying your results and talking about wins in a way that is meaningful to potential clients or obviously employers. So so you wanted to be able to do that, and then you just there's a nice way, if you want to add a little bit of a visual element here, is to include the website. So you get a little bit of an icon here for each organization you worked on, and it also provides a link. So if someone wants to know more, the more information, the more links out that you can provide on LinkedIn, that will just make your whole profile a lot more robust in that respect. So we're just going to keep tracking down here. Obviously, these are all my positions that I've held, and we'll get to some of the different facets here. So here's some awards. I put them a little bit below because I wanted to get right into the work experience. And then your education. So you can list what year you graduated, but just like I coach most of my clients, is that you really don't want to tip off what year you graduated, and that includes both high school and college or any other advanced degrees, because you don't want to tip off people about how old you are. Yes, we're in social media, and yes, someone can see your profile picture and make some assumptions about you, but it's one thing to volunteer it, and there's one thing to not volunteer it, and there's nothing wrong with not volunteering. It's just basically a way to get them focused on the content versus how old you are. That's really important. So one thing I always try to coach people on is courses are really what I would call professional development. So if you are trying to do some try to keep up on your professional development, this is the section you'd want to list these things. So for example, you can consolidate this. Unfortunately, the section's a little malleable whenever you're
Dawn, can you hear me? This is Arnie Fertig calling.
Oh, you're here. Oh, great. Hi, Arnie. Sorry, I'm just
going for a while, and I couldn't get in to let you know that I'm here.
Oh, okay, great, wonderful. I'm just working on this right now, just sort of showing off my screen, and I apologize here. So let's see here. I am trying to get into LinkedIn. So we were going through my profile. Sorry about that. Let me switch over here. Sorry about that. So if you're putting in your professional development here, this is a great thing, and you can consolidate it. Like I said, the section's pretty malleable, so you can instead of including multiple times, listing it over and over and over again, you can just put the year after year after year, which is great. So you want to show this. This is really important for everyone to think about. If you haven't updated your resumes, to think about how can you position your continuous learning, because this will help you show that you are moving your educational career along with your professional career. So something to think about. So volunteers, experience, and causes. One thing I do try to do in this section to make sure that your profile is very complete is to not only give a little bit about your role, obviously, what do you do, but then also you can provide the link for where you're volunteering that has that information, and then I always just kind of pull over some of the content. So if someone wants to know a little bit more about what this does, what this particular volunteer engagement does, then you can just flow it right in here. So it explains what you're doing there. So usually on resumes, you don't have enough space to do that. So you can include all this information in here. I know this getting kind of lengthy. I should probably pull some of this stuff off now at this point. But you can include some of your causes that you care about, and combined with your volunteer experience, you might want to be a little careful about listing anything that might reveal any kind of secular information. And so you need to be careful about that, because you don't want to include church or political or gender-based or racial or anything like that. So unless it's pertinent to where you want to go. So that's something to be aware of. So it could be something you want to focus on, community types of things or your industry relevant types of things for both volunteer causes and perhaps your organizations you support and causes you care about. That provides some insights to you. Organizations, these are your memberships that you belong to. You do want to use that on your LinkedIn profile to make sure people understand what you bring to the table in terms of your connectivity within those organizations. And then any languages, any additional information, and then advice for contacting there. You need to be careful about this section, because I believe in LinkedIn it says you can be contacted for job offers or that kind of thing. So you definitely don't want to be tipping your hand to any of your current employers on that. So you could just say, something like this, make it kind of nebulous that way. And then there's recommendations. I have a bunch of these in here. So one thing I do try to do is to coach people, you know, you don't want to do the I scratch your back and you scratch mine kind of thing, because what happens is that employers can spot those from a mile away. And it's nice if you ask someone, these, you know, don't ask for recommendations from someone that you don't feel as though can really give you one. I've had people contact me in just very general terms and connect on LinkedIn, and then maybe a month or two later they want me to recommend their work. I mean, this is one of those duh. And I can't do that because I don't know them that well. I mean, sure, it's all about getting to know each other on these LinkedIn, but you know, you really want someone who's a job, you know, someone who's your supervisor, a colleague, a coworker, an industry colleague, a client, that kind of thing. So a mentor. So you don't want to just have this area. You have to really treat with a lot of respect, and don't just give these out willy-nilly, but these are great and powerful testimonials about your ability. So treat these absolutely with respect, and don't ask for them unless you know that the person's going to be willing to give that to you. So connections, you know, I got to tell you a quick story about connections. I started out with my LinkedIn profile, and I was a closed networker with the thought that, gosh, you know, I don't want to be connected to people I don't have any kind of connection to. I don't know them. My network is only as good as the people that I know. But you know what? I got taken to task by that when I asked some of the resume writers in the industry about that, and they said, you know, you need to be open, because what are you afraid of if you're closed? And that was a good question. I was thinking, well, gosh, what if someone takes advantage of me? And well, the answer to that is if they do, or if they spam you, then you delete and block them. That's as easy as that. So you just don't know how people have heard about you, why they want to connect with you. And I'll talk about how you should connect, by the way, in just a second. But you don't know what the reasons are. And we have kind of this mindset that if I do X, I will get Y. And it's not necessarily a cause and effect that has an immediate impact in the immediate future or immediate present. You need to think about this as a long-haul connection, and it might be that they come back to you several years later, which is absolutely true. So one of the things I do try to advise people on connecting is you must personalize your request to connect, because a lot of people will use LinkedIn's default connection, and that is actually one of the flaws of their mobile app, is that you
can I jump in here on that?
Yeah, so go ahead, please do.
Yeah, hi everybody, this is Arnie Fertig here, and Dawn, maybe if you could turn my video on your control, people will be able to see me. Dawn is absolutely right when she says you want a large network on LinkedIn, and if you're only if you're only dealing with people that you already know, then you know, you don't need LinkedIn to deal with that. But these days, if you invite somebody on your mobile network, for example, from your cell phone or your iPad, the default is, and LinkedIn doesn't even let you have the opportunity to use just their standard, I'd like to make you a connection, or you're a trusted person, I'd like you to be connected with me. So it's important in those cases to follow up with a note to that person that you're trying to connect with. I used to never connect with people that would just give me the standard stuff. Now I realize that in many cases that's the only option they have. And so my practice is always to write back a note. Thank you for your invitation to connect. Tell me, before I accept your invitation, how did you find me? Tell me about you, and how can I be of help? Because networking is about relationship building and helping one another, so that you don't want to be a beggar. You just want to be a person who's out there looking to build connections for ways in which you can help each other, either currently or in the future. So I just wanted to jump in there with that.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Arnie, because you definitely want to, I always say that anytime you're reaching out to someone, that is a lost opportunity if you don't take the time to customize that connection request, because we all build relationships based on some type of commonality or question or something like that. And if it's just the standard default greeting, then you've really done nothing to really help you and creating some kind of connection with the person if you're just using a generalized thing. It could be, I saw your name in a newspaper, or your company's really just been in the news repeatedly, and I just thought, you seem like a great person to connect to. So it's just really important to sort of think about why you're reaching out to them, tell them why. And obviously you don't want to say, well, I want to know if you have a job. that's not great. It's all about relationship building, and that's really where it boils down to. Do you agree with that, Arnie?
Yeah, I think that we're a remarkable country, and I often say to people and groups that I address that we want to be very generous with each other, and you look at any number of ways in which when people are asked for help, whether it's their family or their friends or their neighbors or whomever, generally speaking, if people understand that there's a good reason and that they have an ability to be helpful to somebody, they will. But at the same time, people don't like to be taken advantage of, and people don't respond well to people they perceive to be beggars. And you shouldn't be begging for a job. That's the wrong reason to hire somebody. It's the wrong way to go about getting hired. And you shouldn't even be begging to be connected with other people. What you should be is building connections, building relationships, and out of those relationships, then it's the time to ask for things in a polite way.
Exactly. Okay, well, I'm going to finish up here, and then I'm going to toss it over to Arnie now. He's back here. He's got a lot of great information to share, and I apologize for blabbing so much here, but I'm glad to see Arnie's here. So anyway, on LinkedIn, there's a lot of great groups that you can join, and number one, this goes back to the concentration of what do you want to be associated with in your particular career field or career target. So go research them. There's pretty much, I think you have 55 groups that you can join total. It may have expanded beyond that. I'm not sure, but the last I heard was 55. So, who do you want to be associated with? Who do you want to be having dialogues with? What do you want to be learning? So these are the people you need to be rubbing elbows with and having conversations, and by virtue of your participation, you can't just join these groups, you need to participate. But you can help start getting people and interacting with people there, and there's a lot of networking that happens on in there that can translate into in real life. So it's really important to go search out those types of groups so that you are connected to those folks. So so that's pretty much it. I'd like to turn it over to Arnie, because you have so many great points about do's and don'ts, and if you want to go ahead and let me switch over to my screen here, and so that I can start talking. Let Arnie take it over here. Thanks, Arnie, for joining us, and why don't you fire away with some of the do's and don'ts, because you've got some great insights here.
Hi, everybody. This is Arnie Fertig here, and I'm going to try to put my my presentation up here. Let me know if you can see this.
It's there. Yep, it's there.
Great. So I want to talk about 5 do's and 5 don'ts when it comes to LinkedIn today. First, and Dawn has spent a good while talking about this, it's really important to complete your profile because you don't know who's going to be looking for you, and anything that's on your profile might turn into be a keyword that's on somebody else's search. And so I say to people that LinkedIn, especially for job hunters, has 3 purposes. And the first is to put yourself out there so that you can be found by the people who are looking for people like yourself. You want to be in that pool, and the way to get yourself found and have recruiters come to you and have other opportunities come to you is to put enough of yourself out there in a professional way such that you will be able to be found when somebody else is searching for you. The next thing I want to advise is to use that personal status update bar that's at the very top of your home page on LinkedIn. You can have 100 and I think it's 140 or 160 characters that you can put up there. Now that looks the same essentially as the updates in Facebook, but it should be used for a very different purpose. I see people on Facebook all the time telling me what they had for dinner or what their kids were up to or what their cat or their dog is doing, and that's fine for Facebook, but LinkedIn is only a professional network, and there's plenty of things that you can share, not only about yourself, but you can put in a URL there and direct people to an article that's of interest to you in a professional way, to perhaps begin a conversation about it. to tell people that you're going to be at a given event or that you're looking forward to such and such. And just below that, you'll see in your scroll all of the updates that everybody else in your network is posting. And it's important to take a look at those as well.
Hey, Arnie, can I just say something to you about that real quick? And one thing I always say is that you can't just build it and assume people will come. So you need to be updating that section quite frequently, because if the lights aren't on and nobody's home, then nobody will come visit your profile. But don't get confused between the status update and the previous publish feature that I mentioned earlier. If you sign up for publishing, you know, the publishing is going to be more of an article. The update is more like a quicker, like the tweet or the Facebook post. So just be aware about that.
Right, absolutely. Now, one thing that I'm not pleased with LinkedIn about is they used to have a feature that they called LinkedIn Signal, and that allowed you to search that stream of everybody else's updates for the last 2 weeks or so. And they've taken that away in the course of the last year. And it's virtually impossible to keep up with all of the updates that everybody in your network is going to be putting, especially if you have anything like a reasonably large network. So chances are you're not going to see all the updates of anyone, and they're not going to see all the updates that you post, which is another reason why you want to post, you know, I say 2-3 times a week, maybe 4, not 4 times a day, but a few times a week, to show that you are active up there and that you have things to share with other people. The other thing, and Dawn, I know you touched on recommending and endorsing. Endorsing is when anybody can endorse you for a skill that you've identified that you have on your profile. It goes in one direction only. And when endorsements first came out, people were just clicking on them randomly, and LinkedIn was trying to get people to endorse each other to build that endorsement up. And I was getting endorsed for things that I had no real skills in, and I was getting asked to endorse people for things that I had no idea whether they knew or didn't know. That has been refined a fair amount lately, and I've been in sessions where recruiters for companies like Google or other major companies here where I am in the Boston area say that they go and they do look at your endorsements on your profile page, not so much to identify you right away, but if they're into the hiring process and you're at the point of being considered, they will often look to see at this point if you have a cluster of endorsements around the key skills that are associated with the job for which you're applying. It isn't yet a knockout, and it isn't yet something that absolutely puts you over the top, but it is one more thing to add some credibility to your candidacy for a given role. Endorsements, though, are very different than recommendations. Recommendations are two-way. If I wanted to write a recommendation for Dawn or anybody else that I'm connected to, I would have to go in and actually write words. I would have to say something positive about her. And Dawn or whomever else I would be writing the recommendation about would see that recommendation before it's ever posted for anybody else to see. And then they could say, yes, that's great, thank you very much, and go ahead and allow it to be posted. Or you can negotiate that back and forth and say, well, gee, you didn't really talk about this, could you talk about this? Or, no, I'm not going to let you say something negative about me, which is why you'll never see a negative recommendation, nor should you. And I do point out to people that when you make a recommendation, it should be very specific. It should have value. It should tell how you know the person, what the length of time you've known her or him, in what capacity you've had a relationship with them, if they've been your boss, your coworker, your subordinate, and what is it that's particularly important and noteworthy about that person? How did they take the lead on a given project? Or how is it that they enhanced their company's profits or saved them money or increased productivity? When you are very specific with your recommendations and you make them fact-based, they have tremendous power. They are searchable, and it serves you well, not just for the give and take of you writing something for them and maybe they'll write something for you, but also recruiters look at who recommends whom, and it says something about you if you go out of your way to say something positive about the things, the people that you've worked with, and show how it is that you value them in the workplace. So recommendations are something to take a serious look at doing. When you are asking for somebody, another do in LinkedIn is to make your asks specific. Don't put people in a position where you're asking for them to do something that they can't possibly do, or that's way beyond the level to which you're really entitled to ask. Don't say, "Hey, I'm out here. I'm looking for a job. Can anybody help me?" Or, "I want a job doing such and such. Even, can anybody help me?" That's not anybody else's job to figure out where you should be or what you should be doing. When you ask somebody for something, you want to make it very clear. "Gee, I know that you know so-and-so, and I'm interested in getting to know that person because would you be willing to make a recommendation that he or she speak with me?" It's very simple. Ask what people actually can do. And if you don't think that they can or are able to do whatever it is that you want, think twice about asking. Next, and the last do that I want to point out here is personalize everything, especially your invites. And I mentioned this a little bit before. If you are inviting somebody and you are on their profile page and you're at your PC or your Mac, you have the opportunity to personalize the invitation. Say something. It doesn't need to be book length. It can be just be a sentence or a phrase, but explain to somebody who you are if they don't know you already, or if they don't know you well already. If it's been a while since you've been in contact with them, remind them of the context in which you know each other. And if you don't know them, explain to them how you found them, what it is that you value about them, and always offer to be helpful in as much as you're asking somebody else to be helpful to you. The motto of networking really is giving to get, not just begging to get. There's a few don'ts that I'd like to kind of cover today as well. Don't act like you're on Facebook. This is sort of, if Facebook is you in blue jeans, LinkedIn is you in a tie and jacket if you're a guy, or in other business attire if you're a female. This is not, "Oh, I had a great latte this afternoon," or "I'm having such and such for dinner," or "my kids are acting up." This is not appropriate behavior on LinkedIn. It may or may not be on Facebook, but it certainly isn't on LinkedIn. Keep it professional. Also, don't self-promote. There's a way to be helpful and to show your worth without asking for people to support you, to sponsor you, to buy something from you. If you're seen only as out there because you want to promote yourself, you want to sell yourself, you want to sell your services, you want to get employed, and that's the only thing you're there for, you'll be seen as a very selfish person, and that's not what networking is about. Self-promoters get recognized pretty quickly, especially in groups, and most groups that have any kind of good moderation, the self-promoters are excluded from those conversations before too long. So you want to be careful about that. And remember always, networking isn't about begging. It's about building relationships. We've talked about that already. And one key tip here is when you're searching for jobs, remember that LinkedIn now is the largest job board in the world. It surpasses Monster and Career Builder and all the others. When you're at the main menu at the very top of LinkedIn, you'll see a tab there for jobs. Those are positions that are advertised. They're paid ads by any company that wants to advertise a position. And there are a lot of them. And when you click on them and you search them, you'll find not only the positions, but you'll find people who are in those companies and people that are connected to you and ways in which you can access the company over and above just clicking and submitting your resume. But as Dawn said, the groups function of LinkedIn is very important. You can be in, I think it's 50 or 55 groups today. And in each group, there's a jobs tab. What many people don't realize is that the jobs in the groups are different than the jobs in the main menu. In the groups, you have to be a member of the group, and over 90% of recruiting is done on places like LinkedIn by headhunters, executive recruiters, and HR folks. And one of the things that they will do when they're looking for a very high-quality, focused candidate pool is they will go to find those people in the relevant groups where they would expect them to be. And when you participate in those groups, you'll be seen, and when you search the jobs in those groups, it'll be a different set of jobs. They will be public, but they're going to be hidden right out in front of everybody because most people don't know to go and look there. So you should join groups that represent your skill sets, that represent the business or industry in which you have worked and want to work, places where you live, geographic groups, alumni groups, all different types of groups, and look in each of them on a fairly regular basis for what kind of jobs they're posting, and you'll have a much better chance of being seen, viewed, and considered.
You know, there's something else too in that, Arnie. There is, within the groups, there's a jobs tab. A lot of times people will more or less casually mention that in the actual conversation.
That's what I'm talking about. Exactly, is that jobs tab that's in the groups. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Don.
Yeah.
Okay? So the jobs tab in the groups is different than the jobs tab in the main menu. And don't forget to contribute to your contacts. LinkedIn, although it's virtual, it's online, it's social, it's about connecting with people, it's about building relationships. LinkedIn gives you cues about networkable moments, times when you might not have thought about interfacing with somebody, but it gives you an in, it gives you a way to begin a conversation. So if you see it's somebody's birthday or that's the anniversary of their employment someplace, those are great opportunities to go beyond the boilerplate and just say happy birthday. It's happy birthday, I hope you're having a great day, or do something special, or put in something personal about it so that it doesn't look like you're just doing the standard click and be done with it. And that way you can begin a conversation. Say, I haven't talked to you in a while, but I saw that it's your birthday. I hope it's a great day. Let's talk. What are you doing about such and such these days? And you can begin a conversation. And you can contribute to your contacts. And you want to be forthcoming when people ask you for help, just as much as you would like to have them be forthcoming when they speak to you. So that's that part of that presentation. Dawn, maybe I'll bring that back to you at this point.
Well, we're getting a little tight on time. We had a little bit of a rough start here, so maybe we should try to regroup here because we had two other areas we were going to discuss, and I'm not sure if we want to try to capture the Q&A. Should we just toss it and see if anybody has questions that they want to post in the group chat function to the right? That might be helpful. Do you want to? What do you think, Arnie? Just so that we can kind of keep things in maybe the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Sounds good.
So do you want to tackle maybe perhaps some of the pre-submitted questions that you got?
Yeah, or let's invite anybody that's here also to post a question now, and we will, Dawn and I will certainly be looking at those and having to respond to them.
Arnie, you might want to switch over to getting your screen back. Stop screen sharing so people can see you.
How do I do screen share? Cancel. Okay.
There you go. Perfect.
There we go.
Awesome.
Sorry about that.
Technology, we gotta love it, right?
Got it.
Why don't we? Should we just take some of the questions that
Sure.
we got? Do you want to lead off?
Well, let me read. I had several people submit questions to me, so why don't I fire them at you, Dawn, and you give your take on them? All right?
Okay, and we can kind of maybe work together on the problem solving here.
Sure. So the first question is, I've been on LinkedIn for months searching for a new position. How do I refresh my profile or my presence in order to get more reviews and seen more?
Well, part of it is you can't just be static in your real life just as you can't be static online. So if you're concerned about trying to find a new position, maybe you should take up a new volunteer activity. Number one, they'll connect you to new people, but then you have something new to put on your profile. And obviously we've already discussed the status updates. that could be something that you could use to your advantage to show some action. And it might be that you attended a conference. You could say, hey, I'm really excited about attending this conference, looking forward to hearing from some thought-provoking speaker, something as simple as that. What do you think, Arnie?
Yeah, I agree with that, and the point is that you should be using those updates with some frequency, as we said, and you shouldn't be static in your job search. Just because even if you're unemployed and not working, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be learning and growing as a person. You should be continuing to study the things that are going on that are cutting edge in your field, so you can show those hiring managers that you're up to date, and you want to be able to demonstrate that, and so you can shift your profile around and move a section up or down, or add a little point, or put something a little bit different, and have the broadcast on, so that you're not doing this all the time, but people in your profile, in your network, will see when you make a change in your profile if you allow them to do that.
Exactly. And even just connecting to people too, as you know, recruiters are pretty open to being connected to, actually. So if you could say, you know, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the types of companies you work with, recruiter person, and say I'd love to stay in touch this way, so you can be passive in as much as that you're kind of doing things that are indirectly things that could get picked up on the radar, or you could be a little bit more proactive and actually reach out to them too.
Right. Right. Here's another question. How does LinkedIn actually work in real life for people? Can you tell me some stories?
Oh my gosh. I have so many stories, and I think this ties back to my earlier discussion about being an open networker, because again, we may think, oh, what can I do with them? How can they be useful to me in the immediate present? But in fact, if you're more of an open networker, you're thinking long tail here, and it could be an opportunity to develop a relationship long term. So I always find that, you know, it goes both ways, from being in real life, then following up and making a connection on LinkedIn after the real life event, or it could be that you make a connection on LinkedIn and then create a in real life connection after that. And I find that pretty much the same with almost all social media. It's been a really great tool, and you know, we like to do business, and we like to do, you know, recommend people that we know. And so again, taking a longer term approach is, you know, how can I meet this person in real life, or what can we do? Maybe it might be that you met on LinkedIn and you both belong to the same association, they're having their conference. You could say, hey, you know, so-and-so, are you going to this conference? I'd love to meet you there. So there's a lot of stories, and I mean, I've had so many opportunities. I've had publishing opportunities, actually. Through LinkedIn, I got involved in Star Magazine, which was my first magazine publishing experience, and I was just so thrilled. It was a dream come true through LinkedIn, and it was someone else that I was connected to. He found me on LinkedIn, we connected, and then it was a friend of his that found me, and it was just an amazing opportunity. So you never know. The thing is, you never know where this is going to take you, honestly, so you can't predict it. It could be a new client, it could be a new venture, it could be anything.
Yeah. I think you have to make room for serendipity here, and sort of give serendipity the raw materials to work with and see what happens. But if you're very closed and you're only willing to interface with the people that you already know, then why are you on LinkedIn to begin with? It's about building your network, not just staying with it. I say to groups, I don't need LinkedIn to talk to my wife.
Well, if you keep the door closed, then nothing can come in. So if you keep the door open, then anything can come in. You can always toss something you don't want out.
Right, right. Another question.
Maybe two more questions.
Right. So another quick question is how to get introduced to people that you don't know.
You know, that is a good question, and I don't know. There's two ways of doing it. There's the paid version, and I didn't really discuss that earlier, Arnie. So you're a paid member of LinkedIn on the premium, and I have never paid for it on my end. So that can make a difference in how you might be introduced. Do you want to talk a little bit about the benefit, just briefly, about the paid versus unpaid and what advantage that might have?
That's a whole other thing in terms of paid. I think it gets you into who's seen your profile, and it allows you to do more in-mails to people, contact people directly. But I think that if you're really looking to meet somebody that you're, say, a second connection or a third connection to, that's really, I think, the essence of the question here. Mm-hmm. And there's two answers. There's the LinkedIn good do-be answer, and then there's the real answer that I give to people that I have as clients. LinkedIn wants you to use LinkedIn to get to other people, and so that if you're connected to somebody at a second or third degree, they want you to go through the person or people that you know in order to get to that next person and have them be a link and introduce you, and sometimes that works out really, really well. However, the problem is oftentimes, unless you're in job hunt mode, you're probably not looking at your LinkedIn page all that often, and you may not even see those requests when they come to you, or they get even if they come into your regular email, they get kind of filtered aside. So I recommend using LinkedIn in that sense as a source of business intelligence to find out who's out there, who you want to be connected with, and if there's a person that you know that actually can connect you, pick up the phone and call them. Or write them a personal email, and don't do it through LinkedIn. Let LinkedIn simply be the means in which you get to know that person.
Absolutely, and there's also what they call the X-ray method, and this is where if you can kind of identify who it is that you're trying to target in LinkedIn, and at least if you get their first name and their company, you can actually go to a Google and use a Boolean search, and Boolean is spelled B-O-O-L-E-A-N search, and you should Google that if you're not sure how to use that. But basically, you can do a Boolean search and come up with the person's name. If you know their company, usually there's a couple different options of how people's names are presented in the company email directory, so you can actually reach out directly. So it's usually their first name and their last name, their first name dot their last name, their first initial and their last name at the company email address. So you can kind of,
recruiter's tricks there, Don.
What's that?
Those are the recruiter's tricks. That's how.
I know. Well, you got to think like that if you're trying to get that information. So, if you're hungry to try to connect to someone, that's a great way to do it. And then you can send an email directly to their address, and you don't have to even, we want them to use LinkedIn. Obviously, it's a great resource, but that could be the first place to start for that business intelligence before you reach out directly.
Right. And I would just say that when you are reaching out to somebody, let them understand, in a respectful way, how you found them, why it is worth their time to talk to you, not just I need to talk to you, or I want to talk to you because I want you to help me do such and such. And it's important to just remember manners and to being professional about it all.
And honestly, the most successful people are already contemplating their next move, even if they're happy in their current position. They're thinking, well, where would I want to be? So again, it's building the relationships up before you actually act on what your goals are. So you're already saying, hey, I saw you at this conference. I'd love to stay in contact with you, or whatever it is, so that you build that relationship and it gives some kind of basis. And so again, it might be a common interest, it might be an article where they were mentioned, hey Joe, I saw you in the Business Journal, congratulations to your company for winning the Eco Award, or whatever it is. Just something as simple as that, just like, your company's doing some great things, I'd love to stay in touch. Easy.
Absolutely right. I don't see any questions being typed in on the right, folks.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that either. Maybe let's take 2 more questions, and we should probably wrap it up because I think we're starting to lose a couple people here.
Well, so. I think that's the key questions that I've got that people have submitted to me.
Okay. Well, I think this has been great, and thanks again, Arnie. I'm so sorry that it took us a while to get you pulled in here, but I'm glad you made it.
I'm sorry about that too, and we'll have to figure out how to do that better the next time.
Exactly.
But I want to thank everybody for being here, and Dawn, I thank you for co-hosting this or hosting this and allowing me to be part of it.
Absolutely, and this is going to be broadcast on YouTube, so I'll put the link in this Hangout so everybody can, if they want to go back and watch it again. And certainly, if they have any more questions, feel free to contact either myself or Arnie. Arnie's an incredible wealth of information. I'm just really pleased that you were able to join the Hangout today. Thanks, Arnie.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great day, and we'll be doing another Hangout in about a month. That's usually what we're going to do. Is the second Monday of every month at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I haven't decided on next month's topic, but we'll get that out there in plenty of time so everybody's aware of that. Thanks so much. Bye bye.